A couple of people requested a video on how to use this presser foot. The Singer 201 manual calls it a foot hemmer, but I've also seen it called a narrow hem foot or a rolled hem foot. And I just want to point out a couple of things before I start sewing. This foot on the top came with my 1591, and this one came with my featherweight. The one on the top is working very well, and this one not so much. It's not turning the raw end under, and when I compare the two, even though they are the same foot with the same part number, this scrolled piece here doesn't extend back as far on this one. That's not working, and so I think it's a little bent out of shape, just ever so slightly. And so if you're having trouble with this foot, it might be the foot itself and not you. So if you have more of these in your collection, try a different one. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're going to practice with this, you're going to want to do so with a lightweight or medium weight cotton, like a quilting type cotton. This has been working very well for practicing. It's a lot less frustrating than working with this, for example, which is a very flowy polyester, and it has a different weave pattern than this cotton. So we'll leave this for another time. This is harder to work with. Practice with the cotton. It'll also work on a cotton poly blend, but not quite as easily as this cotton here. So this is what I'm going to demonstrate on. And I'm using pieces that are cut about 2.5 by 5 inches, just because they're easy to work with. And if you can get these little pieces to work, you're going to feel more successful and won't want to throw your foot in a drawer and never touch it again. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is a felled seam, because believe it or not, that's actually easier, the easiest of the three that I'm going to show you. So place your material right sides together. I'm using 2 different colors here so you can see what I'm doing. And there is no right or wrong side on these, but if you're doing this, you're going to want to put the material right sides together. And the bottom material should extend, the raw edge of the bottom piece of material should extend a little further to the right than the raw edge on the top piece of material. And the manual does not specify how far exactly that is, but I'm using the width of the toe here as a guide, because I'm going to line up the raw edge of the top material with the left side of the toe, and the raw side of the bottom material with the right side of the foot. And that's going to give about the correct width to get a nice rolled hem, a nice felled seam. So do one line of stitching all the way down. Leave this beginning thread tail on because it's going to help you position the material in the hemmer foot. So use this thread tail to pull it back through the scroll and under the foot. Then put the presser foot down. And when I'm doing this, I'm looking to see that it's turning under through this scroll here. And then as I sew, I'm just going to make sure that these 2 pieces of material stay pulled apart. And I'm lining up this line of stitching with the left side of the toe. I'm not putting any drag on the material. I'm letting the machine feed itself, and I'm just guiding it. I'm letting the foot do all the work without pushing or pulling or dragging on the fabric. And there you go. This side is the beginning where I started. And this is the other end where it ended. And it looks quite nice all the way down. That's the felled seam. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to do the rolled hem. I like to get it started like this. I'm going to fold over and fold over again just to get the beginning of the hem started. This is about the width of the resulting hem. And then I'm going to pin that in place. Then I can use this pin to help me get the material positioned under the presser foot. Now if you're not sure exactly how wide to do that, you can use the groove on the underside of the foot as a reference the first time. It's about roughly the same. When I put this material under the presser foot, I'm going to align this folded edge on the left with the left side of the opening on the foot. And then when I put the needle down into the material, I'm going to make sure that it's catching that folded edge on the left side. I'm going to remove the pin and just take one more stitch by hand just to make sure I've really got a hold of that material. Then I'm going to lift the foot and just begin to get the material into the foot. Just that much. We don't have to work it into the whole scroll. It's going to begin to do that on its own once we start sewing. Now to start, hold your thread tails and pull back slightly just for the first couple of stitches. And you can see the material worked its way under the scroll where it's supposed to be. Now we don't need to hold this anymore. We're just going to guide the material, making sure we're feeding enough here so that this raw edge is going to be somewhere around the area of the groove on this side. And just let the material, let the machine feed the material. You don't have to put any drag on it. You don't have to push or pull or help it along. And there you go. That's pretty good. That's the end. I veered off the end a little bit at the end. But the beginning is quite nice. I'm going to show you how to attach a piece of lace as you sew the hem. I cut my lace a little bit longer than the material, so I have something to hold on to when I get towards the end of the hem. And I'm going to start it the same way I started when I was just doing the hem by itself, by folding over twice and kind of finger pressing it. Then I'm going to lay the lace over that wrong side up so that the edge of the lace is lined up with this inner folded edge. And pin that in place like this. And as before, I'm going to use the pin to help me line up that hem and to line up that left fold with the left side of this needle opening, and put my needle down into the material and the lace. Remove the pin, lift the foot, move the lace out of the way, get the material started between the two toes of the foot, just so it's between them. And then get the lace in that slot on the top of the foot where the needle is. Then I'm going to put the foot back down, hold on to the thread tails, and just take 2 or 3 stitches to get it started as I'm pulling the thread tail slightly to the back. Okay. I'm going to check my material, make sure it's still laying nicely. We're going to be watching a couple of things. We're going to watch this as we're turning the hem, and we're going to watch that this lace edge here stays just to the left of the needle, right up against the opening, the left side of the opening. And you can kind of keep it that way by angling the lace just a little bit, just slightly to the left. Don't try not to put too much pressure on it or it'll stretch as you sew. Just let it glide through your fingers. And let's see how that turned out. Not bad. Looks like I veered off a little bit right here, but I still caught it. And I can see the folded edge of that hem all the way down the length of the material, so I know I didn't miss it. And then here's what the other side looks like. Pretty good.